Dzień dobry moi drodzy, to Imponderabilia, których się nigdy w życiu nie spodziewałem. Moim gościem jest deGrasse Tyson. Rozmawiamy m.in. o jego najnowszej książce Listy od astrofizyka. Są polskie napisy. Zapraszam bardzo serdecznie. Mr. Tyson, it's an honor, it's a pleasure to see you and to talk to you.
Please call me Neil. Please call me Neil.
I will call you Neil then. First thing, it's 2020, right? It's the year of the years. It's the greatest year of all time, right? We have COVID, and everyone's life is different, and very often you talk about the matter that some space stuff or NASA equipment is relevant for us, right? Is there a thing that for this year, for fighting with the pandemic outbreak with COVID-19, NASA actually helped to deal with?
I don't have a full mental inventory of every way in which our journeys into space have touched our lives. I have sort of the greatest hits account of it. But I think and of course there would be some needs on Earth that are not served by going into space or will never be served by going into space. So I never want to be thought of as ever having said, let's go into space so that all our problems are solved here on Earth. I don't want to ever be thought of having said that. But I will say that the urge to say we have this problem, so let's solve this problem, and you invest money for that solution, that is very sort of linear thinking. That's saying, I have problem A, let's do B, and B solves it. But suppose the solution to A comes from D, E, or F in the alphabet, and that triggers insight that then works its way back through different disciplines of curiosity and investigation and engineering and science, so that then it touches the solution to this problem. That's harder to predict, but that happens all the time. The fact that every one of us is walking around with a smartphone, that is not the product of a single invention from a single mind, right? Where someone says, I want to have a portable phone. Let me just do this, and then I have it. No, it is tapping GPS satellites for timing. It is using microelectronics for the storage of information. It is using the decades of research in microwave communication, which began in the Second World War. So all of this is coming together for you to just have this thing that fits in your pocket. Okay? So if you had said in 1960, I want to create an iPhone, you wouldn't be able to do it, because the science and technology that plugs into it is not yet invented, and it will not be invented by you. It'll be invented by other branches of science and technology that later a clever person says, such as Steve Jobs said, let me combine this with that. Oh, by the way, the discovery of very powerful small magnets allowed the miniaturization of speakers and microphones. Okay? Our parents grew up with speakers that are this big, and they had to be big to have good acoustic fidelity. But when you make magnets small, which are necessary to modulate currents that can then change the cone of a speaker, if you make that small, now I can fit hearing aids inside your ear canal. Oh my gosh. Okay. Have you ever seen old pictures of people with hearing aids? They had these big the big cone things, and they go around like this. Yeah. Okay. So we need to be a little more open about all the ways forces operate on innovation and new discoveries.
So follow up to this is maybe, do you have a breakthrough which you would love to see in your lifetime, which is not yet here?
So when you breakthrough, let me think.
Scientific breakthrough, of course.
Yeah. I think yes, but I haven't. I'll give you that answer, but then I'm going to give you a different answer.
All right.
Okay. Which I think is a better answer, but I'll give you the straight answer first. The straight answer is yes. I want to know what was around before the Big Bang. Okay. I think kind of everybody wants to know that, right? I want to know how Earth went from having pools of organic molecules to colonies of self-replicating life. All right? We don't know how to do that in the lab. Earth had no trouble accomplishing this. And it did it relatively quickly. And between 1 and 200 million years, it went from just molecules to life. All right? That's a mystery I'm deeply curious about. I also want to know how far away is the nearest life in the universe that we might call intelligent. So how alone are we in the universe? That's one I want to know. I also want to know, what is the nature of dark matter and dark energy? These are two things that manifest in our measurements of the universe that we know they're there, but we have no idea what's causing them. And so it's a big mystery. The dark matter is some source of gravity that's not planets, stars, moons, black holes, clouds. It's none of that. We don't know and it's most of the gravity in the universe, and we don't know what's causing it. And what we call dark energy, this mysterious pressure in the vacuum of space that is operating in the opposite direction of gravity. And it's forcing the universe to accelerate in our expansion. So those are my top 5. And they're big ones, but now that's my straight answer. My more oblique answer to your question is, the questions I think most about are the ones I don't yet know to ask. Right? Because suppose I have the answers. Now I know what was around before the Big Bang. There was this other thing. All right. And then I say, well, what was around before that? I don't even know to ask that question yet, because we're not standing in the place where we can see it. All right. So for me, the ever advancing arc of research, its role is to put me in a new place so I can ask questions undreamt of by a previous generation.
That's awesome. Yeah, I completely agree. Well, just recently, you know that you have for sure the new president in the United States, Joe Biden. And I was wondering, do you consider last 4 years as, let's say, bad years? And how, as a scientist, do you talk to a politician, especially a religious one? How do you, in the other words, how do you move the science forward when you have to cooperate with politicians, right?
Yeah, I don't concern myself with politicians, because in a free society, in a free democracy, whatever the politician is thinking, whether you like it or don't like it, it's probably what the people are thinking who voted for them. Okay? So to believe that somehow the politician is the source of problems is missing the actual drivers of what's going on in a free society. So with President Trump, so he won the election in 2016, and 60 million people voted for him. Okay. Then more revelations about his conduct or about his misogyny or about his tribalism, and all of this comes out. And then he runs for office again and he loses. But in his loss, he got 10 million more votes than he did in 2016. So his voting fan base grew over that time. So the issue here for me is not anything Trump ever says or does. It's I'm going to turn around to everyone who voted for him and say, do you realize the full consequence of this policy or this action? And that's who I'm going to talk to. I'm not going to talk to the politicians, because you can swap out a politician and there's still the matter of the 70 million people who voted for the one you just swapped out. And so this, for me, is a very important, not important, it's tactical. If as an educator, if I want people to think and care about what is objectively true, I'm not going to talk to the politicians. I'm going to talk to the people. And in modern times, I have platform, right? I have following on social media. The press pays attention to what I say and what I think if I write it down. So I'm not just hidden in a corner and all I can do is write to my member of Congress. No, there are other pathways available to me.
And it's more effective because when you have the following, you can resonate with the people, and they can follow this up to their closest politicians, I guess. Yeah,
correct. And once it's built into the system, you will not find another politician running with that sort of platform. If people make it clear that they don't want someone leading them who's guided by mystical thinking or denial of scientifically objective truths, you can just build, you preload the system so that never happens. And so that's how I think about things.
Great. Subtle plug-in.
I recognize that book.
Do you recognize this book, sir? Do you recognize it? It's great.
I've seen that book before.
You've seen it, because in Poland we have the same cover as everywhere else. Which
no,
is
no. So no, you missed that.
Oh, really?
There's a cover in the United States, but when it went to England, okay, I know England and the United States speak the same language, but kind of not really. So they created their British edition.
So is it British?
Changed some of the spelling, and that's where that cover came out. And all the rest of Europe has completely embraced that cover.
All right.
And everyone has abandoned the American cover.
Oh, really? I thought it's American.
Personally.
So it's more sophisticated then because it's British? I'm kidding.
No, it's a different creative concept.
No, yeah.
And I happen to like them both, but the Europeans, I don't second guess what another country values artistically or emotionally. And if it helps get the book noticed, I'll go with it.
Of course.
So yes, I do recognize it because in England and in Hungary and in France, they've got that cover.
Exactly. It's a great book. It's your fourth book we have in Poland, and it's called Letters from an Astrophysicist. So you actually read, and you do, I guess, emails from your readers, from your viewers, and you actually respond to their questions. It amazes me because you actually have time to consider their problems and actually answer to their particular case. How did you start this, and how it went?
So let me modify in a few points of what you mentioned. So first of all, my email is no longer public. Okay, so I don't want people to get this book and say, "Oh, I can write to him too."
Oh yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Right now. So it's no longer public, but it was public for decades, and this volume goes back into the 1990s among email. The earliest email accounts that generally the public had was basically into the 90s, and my office hours were open to people going back then. So that's my first comment. But no longer is that the case. So second is, it's not that I had the time to reply to people. It's that I made the time to reply to people. And that's a different psychological state. It's not like I'm laying around, I got a couple extra hours, let's see who wrote to me today. No, I'm busy. I really should be doing these other things, but these are actual people who are writing to me with their thoughts and concerns. And some of the letters are very personal. And then I realized, well, I don't even know these people, but they're telling me about, one of them has terminal cancer, another one is in a prison, another one tells me why they're in prison and how regretful they are, another and why are they writing to me? Because they have some angst, some question they're carrying, some thoughts, some bit of curiosity where they have judged that my expertise, in particular, a cosmic perspective, could illuminate pathways that they might choose to take as they move on in life. And so the fact that they entrusted this level of inquiry with me, I felt I would be irresponsible if I did not give them the same level of sensitivity and interest that they had invested in the question to me. And so here's how that volume arises. That book has about 100 letters. And it came about because there I am replying to people, and one every 10 letters, I put in like a lot of extra effort to get it right and to think about what they're thinking. And I said to myself, I put in so much effort into this, it would be a shame if that person is the only one who saw this answer. That's what I said to myself. I said, I put in too much effort for only one person to read this. So for those letters, about 1 in 10, I put it aside in a folder. And I said, maybe I'll collect these one day if there's enough of them. Well, yeah, it took 30 years, but over the 30 years and thousands of letters, I handpicked about 500 of them ended up in this folder. And of that 500, I got the most interesting and best 100 that went into that collection. So that is a highly selected, and plus some letters are repeats from others, right? Many people have common questions about God, about aliens, about, the end of the world or the beginning of the world. So that obviously I don't have to put in the duplicates, but once you do that and you call that, this is a very handpicked, highly sifted offering for you, the reader, to see what is driving the curiosity of your fellow other people out there, and how then does an astrophysicist respond?
Exactly, and that's for me one of the most interesting approaches in those letters was a lesson how to talk to people which I don't agree with, but I want to connect. I don't want to just say, "Oh no, you're just wrong. I don't talk with you." But you teach how to talk.
Thank you for noticing that. I mean, entire chapters in there are conversations between me and people who feel strongly that something is true that is of questionable scientific authenticity, right? And so, in fact, one of the questions is from one of my cousins, who, when her father died, she went to the mortuary, and he's up there on the slab before the body's prepared for a casket, and she had a conversation with him while he was on the slab. And after that conversation, she said, "Oh, he's in a better place. He told me, and I'm happy now. I'm no longer sad." And all right, okay, the guy's dead. She had a conversation with him. She wrote to me and recounted what happened and said, "What do I think happened?" The fact that she wrote to me meant she was curious about it. She didn't just say, "Yep, that's real. I got it." No, her brain was moving and thinking beyond the moment and wanted me to react to it. And I did. And that exchange is in the book. My point is that the fact that you would come to me with your paranormal experience tells me that you are open to a conversation. And I have to value that in you. All right. And if you're open to a conversation, I'm open to having that conversation with you. And you're right. It's not just hitting them on the head, saying, "No, you idiot," or "You No, it's, I'll talk about the things called acoustic hallucinations, right? Where, we think of normally a hallucination as, you see something that's not really there, but you can have acoustic hallucinations where you hear things that are not really there. And I said, this is not uncommon. But I said, either that or she actually communicated across the Great Divide. And so I told her, in my reply, I said, here's what you do. Next time this happens, okay? So you can make it a science experiment out of it. So here's what I told her to do. I said, have her give a sheet of paper to a friend of hers, and have them write a very common saying on it, like roses are red, violets are blue, or, the sky is falling, or just say something simple, okay? But don't tell her what it is. Fold it up, staple it, carry that with her at all times. The next time she has a conversation with a dead person, pull that out, open it up, and show it to them, and have them read it back to her. Okay? She doesn't know what it is. And if there's real communication here and real knowledge, that would be an extraordinary experiment to conduct, to see if, in fact, there's an awareness coming back the other way. And if there isn't, that kind of more points to you having an acoustic hallucination. And I offered I offered a list of questions she should ask next time. Not, oh, how are you? How are you feeling? I'm fine. I'm in a better place. No, ask, what's the temperature there? Do you eat? Are you wearing clothes? Where did you get the clothes? Where did you get the food? Is the food cooked? Are there pets there? How old are you? Are you as old as you were when you died, or are you 30 years old in the prime of your life? And if you're in the prime of your life, I'm not yet born, so why are we having this conversation? Okay, so get information.
Now I know why ghosts don't appear to you, because you have too many questions for them.
Too many questions.
That's just too many questions for a dead person.
In the ghost jamboree, they're saying, avoid Neil Tyson.
Avoid him. He's dangerous. He wants to ask questions. Yeah. But I heard that great line that you said in some interview, that you want to be remembered not as just you, Neil deGrasse Tyson, as a person who taught things, but you want to somehow converse that you will become irrelevant because people will think, because of your books, your lectures, your podcasts, and you as yourself wouldn't be as important as many think, would love to be remembered, for example, by looking at their statue somewhere.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that to the front. So there are two parts of this. One of them is everything I know about not being alive, okay, tells me that I won't care what anyone thinks of me when I'm dead. Okay, so that's just that's the practical side of that. So, but the more sort of intellectual, philosophical side of it is, as an educator, my goal is to get you to think for yourself, so that when you have a next encounter with someone who thinks some way and you think you can help them out, I don't want you to say, oh no, the world is round, not flat, because Tyson told me so. Then I haven't taught you anything. If something is only true because you heard me say it, not because you understand it to be true, then I have failed as an educator. Yeah, so you're right. Ideally, we have time together and I explain to you how it works and why it works, and you walk off and you forget me the next day. That's a perfect exchange with people, because anything else is cult building. All right, look at all the cults in the world. Everyone in the cult constantly is referencing back to the cult leader. What is their next word? We're going to hang on everything they say, and we will do exactly what they say. Well, why are you doing it? Oh, because they say it'll bring happiness, and they say, so no, I failed if you have to keep referencing me.
All right. Also, we know that many things which were considered as miracles for years are being, let's say, canceled because of science. Because science, yeah, sorry,
using a modern term, yes,
yeah, because science explains this and that and other stuff. And I wonder, do you have your own category of miracles that you actually can you actually consider something a miracle, and you think of anything with this word?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So let me unpack that, because
Sure.
there's multiple things
You're
going on.
doing it very well, so yes, please.
So this is a longer answer than you're asking for, but I think it's
Great.
necessary to put it all out there. So miracles, more often than not, are cited in circumstances that relate to people's health. Okay? Where someone has some bad disease and they are cured of it by mysterious means. If you look at sort of the history of miracles that have been claimed, in almost all cases, it relates to health. Even if you go back to Jesus brings Lazarus back from the dead, or heals the lepers, right, in the leper colony, or selected lepers. So these are health miracles. And so he also walked on water, so that's not a health-related one, but so I'll get to that one in a minute. But just and if you look at the rules needed for people to become saints, be canonized and then become sainthood in the Catholic Church, there's a checklist of things they must do, and it includes having performed miracles. And in almost all cases for the saints, it relates to health-related phenomenon. Well, what is the state of medicine at any given time? Well, we like to say, oh, modern medicine. Oh, it's great, modern medicine. Well, consider that, is there any time in the past where you would say to yourself, I'd rather be treated by the doctors 20 years ago than today? No, not even 10 years ago. Okay, so there is no time in the past where you prefer to walk into that hospital. Why is that so? It's because medicine continually advances. And whatever you're calling modern in one moment is going to look primitive decades later. So maybe medicine isn't actually modern. Maybe it is still trying to figure itself out. There are broad categories of diseases that we cannot cure, including the common cold, including many kinds of cancer. And the treatment of cancers that we do cure, they're pretty invasive in your body. And so we don't fully, how come some people smoke and don't get cancer? There's still these huge unknowns. So if you get cancer and the doctors gather and say you're going to be dead in 6 months and you're alive in a year, and you're a religious person, you are more likely to credit the prayers of your fellow religious people and your own piety for that cure than you are to say, I was diagnosed by 3 idiot doctors who didn't know what they're talking about, right? So that's extraordinary. It means you have such confidence in the doctors that if you get better when they say you're not, you're going to credit the creator of the universe for intervening and making you better, rather than saying that the doctors, who are all trained in the same regimen, in the same system of medical textbooks to give you the same diagnosis, you're not going to say to yourself, oh, they're all just wrong. Okay, so that's interesting to me, that people would appeal to that. The best example, I think, the most classic example of miracles is if you look at epilepsy, okay? What are the symptoms of an epileptic seizure? Well, you lose control of your extremities, and you shake, and you might froth at the mouth. This is exactly what you'd expect a person to do if the devil got into their body. Okay? Just look at descriptions of the devil and their influence, and boom. So we go centuries, if not most of millennia. Well, we have to have the existence of the devil first before we can have that as an explanation. So this is Christian world. So post Jesus and St. Augustine, and when they've formalized what it is to be Christian and what the tenets are and the parameters are. So there you have it. So the Catholic Church says, I know what we'll do. Let's send the priest with the cross and the holy water, and they will perform an exorcism. And this will rid this writhing body of the devil, and then all will come out well. And so the epileptic seizure lasts just long enough for it to be reported and for the priest to get there and to perform their rituals, and then the symptoms abate. So as far as anyone was concerned, especially believers, there was the devil is real, and it was removed from your body. Okay. Of course, today, you're not going to call for the priest. Most people are not going to call for the priest. We have medicines that will tamp it down. I don't know that we have good cures for it, but we can keep it regulated. So this is a case where the priest removing the devil from your body, I don't know that we would call that a miracle, but it was the belief that in powers that experimental testing shows do not exist, and that all epileptic seizures come to an end. And if the priest never showed up, the recovery symptoms would be exactly the same. All right. So that's science gaining insight into things that were previously considered to be of divine cause. So I've once stated, and it's a quote slightly taken out of context, but I'll give you the full quote. It is, because what is a miracle is something you can't explain by natural causes. All right, so here it is. If you choose to invoke God or any deistic influence as an explanation for things science has yet to understand, if that's how you want to think about the world, then God is an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance. And so as science moves forward, you remove God from the explanation. This just keeps going, and then the God circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller. If that's how you want to think of God, all right? However, if God to you is just someone who gives you a spiritual comfort and all the rest of this, and you're not going out trying to explain the natural world with books written thousands of years ago, then that God is a little more secure, it seems to me, in your belief system than one that you're going to put in and say, well, God was there to turn molecules into life. God was there to create the universe. God was there to cure your cancer. God was there and start putting God in every place where science throws up its hands. That's a tentative platform to occupy. That's my long answer to you.
But it's great. I love it, and it reminded me that there is a theory. I think in English it has the same name as in Polish. It's called God of holes. God of
the God of the gaps.
God of gaps. Oh, sorry, yeah, God of gaps. Yeah, so
the God of the gaps. That encapsulates this concept. Yes.
Mm-hmm. This one will be really short. Which celestial body is your favorite and why?
Oh, Earth. Next question.
Oh, come on. I should add, besides Earth. Come on. There are billions of stars.
All right, good. Still Earth.
All right. Now, let's say I
like the water and the air that I can drink and breathe.
Really?
Right? So after that, I would have to say Saturn. Just how beautiful it is, the rings. Okay. I saw Saturn. One of the first objects I saw through my telescope that I got, my first telescope when I was 12 years old. I got it on my 12th birthday. And you're looking around, that's supposed to, what are these objects? And boom, there it is with rings. And it's just, oh my gosh. And you can say, well, it looks just like the photos, so why am I excited? Well, except it's different when you see it through your own optics with your own eyes rather than through what you know are much larger telescopes. Somehow Saturn became much more real to me. And then I look to the moon and you see the hills and mountains and valleys and craters and the textures. And so the moon and the Saturn are insignificant to me as the first objects I saw through a telescope as a child, as a budding geeky child. And I think to myself, if my little telescope brings that level of detail and majesty to these objects that are relatively nearby in the universe, then imagine what bigger telescopes would be. And if I extended my backyard of curiosity to go to the edge of the universe itself. So that's what I did. And so for me, those are special places.
So first love never fades. is what they say,
Yeah,
right?
that's the way to think of it. Yeah, first law. I like that. That's the way to think of it.
But you said Earth, and I wanted to ask you about the famous Carl Sagan's picture, the phrase about the Earth, pale blue dot, when he convinced to turn the Voyager and take this one last picture. That's a very vivid act of scientific science telling to people, look how small we are and how fascinating it all is. It's like very short way of doing it. Do you think that right now, when we have like tons of stuff, tons of pictures, can scientists actually produce something so powerful as this old photograph?
You want to do that again, but at another level, perhaps? Yeah, so I would say the first example of that exercise occurred in December 1968, the first time we went to the moon. Okay, this was Apollo 8. Now, they didn't land on the moon, and so that's why they don't quite get the news coverage that Apollo 11 did. But for me, it was the first time we ever left Earth for a destination. So we left Earth. We, the Apollo astronauts, went around the moon, dozen, 15 times, and then came back. But in that journey around the moon, as they orbited the moon, and they had a very high quality Hasselblad camera, and there they were, and the Earth rises up above the horizon, and they snap this picture. That picture was published at the end of 1968, and it was stupefying. Do you have that word in Polish? It was, oh my gosh, take a look at this. We think of moon rising over our horizon, but there we are on the moon, and there you see Earth rising over its horizon. Oh my, this is like a complete reversal of perspective. And not only that, we had all been trained in our school room that the globe has color-coded countries. Okay, that's what the world looks like. Okay, and there's Europe with all of its countries, and Africa, and the United States has its states. There, that's what the world is. But no, that's not what this image revealed. There was Earth with land and oceans and clouds, and it was there, kind of floating alone in space. This perspective, by my read of history, transformed our relationship to Earth like no other force that had ever descended upon us. Only after that picture was taken were laws passed to protect Earth, to protect your health relative to Earth. The laws that banned DDT, that banned lead from the environment, the laws that, so in the United States, the Environmental Protection Agency was founded in 1970. Okay, from December 1968 to 1970, that's 18 months or so, that entire agency was formed. Okay, all of the anti-pollution marketing that took place after that picture was published, because we realized we're all in this together. Okay, pollution was never good, but people only ever thought about it locally. Oh, my stream is polluted, I have to fix it. No one is thinking that the water molecule here can go up and scatter around the world, and the air can scatter around the world, and we can all be affected. All right? So, for me, that was a pivot point in our awareness and sensitivity of our relationship to Earth and Earth's relationship to us. The pale blue dot was sort of the follow-on. So pale blue dot was when did that come out? 1990, I think, and around there. And so now we're talking, that's 20 years after. Okay. So yes, that was another perspective, that if you're far enough away, you don't even see the continents or the clouds or the land. We're just a speck in a void. So what you're asking, I think, is there another version of this as we go forward? Okay, I don't know, because who would have thought that the 1968 Earthrise picture would have had the influence that it did. It's just a cool picture to take. If I were in the capsule at the time, that's a cool picture. Let me take that. I'm not thinking, let me use this to completely. No, and I think Carl Sagan had enough insight, enough awareness of public sentiment that I think he had an idea that it could be impactful, but it needed the boost of the book that he wrote alongside it. All right. And he had this beautiful prose in there reflecting on this pale blue dot. It needed the text to go with it. Unlike Earthrise, which I don't think needed any text at all. It was completely clear what that is and should mean to us. So, right, if Earth is a small pale spot on a picture, that picture needs a caption to know that it is Earth,
yes,
that it is small, and that maybe we need another way to think about it. So I bet that the discovery of life on another planet would transform us in a similar kind of way.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's in what we call intelligent life, just life, that maybe life on Earth is precious because we're all Earth life. And there's Mars life, and then planet Zepton life, right? So maybe that will, as tribal as we are as a species, maybe for the first time we'll think of us collectively as a tribe, Earth life, Earth humans. And that could have a force, that could be a force that, for good, a force for peace, like none other that precedes it.
There's a letter in which your reader is talking about the yin yang symbol, and he's telling that it's a symbol of cycles, of repeating cycles of the earth, and you correct him that it rather represents the balance of the cosmos, of universe. And I wonder, how do you feel about unbalancing the earth right now, in terms of climate catastrophe, of climate change, and maybe
okay, so I have to correct you on one thing. I think I'm correcting you unless I wrote it wrong in the book. So that yin yang symbol, which also shows up, I think, in the Korean national flag. So it's the shape where there's a white and a black form that forms one circle. And so they're complementary to each other, not only geometrically, but also in terms of the colors for how they are typically drawn. I don't think I said the universe is balanced. I think what I said was, when you evoke this balance concept, you're looking for things that are better off balanced, okay? And then you're crediting it as some kind of deep insight. But most things are not balanced. And so does that mean they'd be better off if they were? That's not obvious if that's the case. One thing that is not balanced and has never been balanced is nature. Ever. It has never been balanced, okay? You've had invasive species. We cause a lot of this, of course, but the Earth's continents are moving. 95% of all species that ever existed are now extinct. That is not the sign of balance. That's a sign of nature trying to kill life, okay? Earth trying to kill life. So the struggle for survival of animals in the tree of life, animals and plants, is nothing short of total. It's a total effort to not die, because the forces are hardly ever balanced. And so, with or without us in the world. So the point, so let me just get that straight. Second, by the way, you can say, oh, we're balanced and we're in harmony day to day. Okay, fine. But we came out of an ice age 10,000 years ago. Was that in harmony? Was that balanced? No, it was a freaking ice age, okay? And then when the ice age went to the not ice age, that's out of balance too. We could have said, no, let's keep things balanced. Keep the ice age. It's steady. It's been that way for 10,000 years. Don't adjust it. No, you like better weather than that, okay? So no, don't talk about nature in harmony and in balance, because it never has been. On a tiny scale, you can watch it, but you step back, you see things change: volcanoes, earthquakes, continental drift, and climate changing from all manner of reasons for the history of life on Earth. Okay, so here's the issue. The issue is coming out of the Ice Age, we've had a relatively stable climatic environment, okay? The ice caps are stable where they are, okay? They're not melting too much. The water levels are constant, all right? And, all right, that's when we develop agriculture. When you develop agriculture, you now can feed huge quantities of people. You then have trade where you can move and transportation so that you can collect people in one place and have all trade go to that one place. This is the birth of cities. And where are you going to put a city? On the water's edge, be it a lake, be it as in Chicago, be it on a river like in London, be it on a seas or on the oceans like New York. Just three fast examples that come to my head. So now, well, how long was this period going to last? Probably another, 10,000 years before the next ice age. But we are warming the Earth faster than what would have otherwise happened by natural causes. So yes, we are putting in a disequilibrium faster. And so the glaciers are now melting faster. So the water level, and they'll just melt straight into the oceans. In the oceans, where does the water go? The ocean levels rise. We are in an active experiment on how quickly we're going to flood all of the world's greatest cities. And why were the cities on the water's edge? For commerce, for transportation, for irrigation, for all these reasons. Okay? And so, why was, the Nile River, all of these places. Okay? So, by the way, if the oceans flood, the river delta becomes very different, okay? Because that assumes the water's exiting out and then not coming back in. So it will cause no end of problems for our cities. So climate change, we'll survive climate change as a species, yes, okay? Because our species has survived worse in the past, like the ice ages, all right? But it'll completely redraw the world. Whole countries will go underwater in the South Pacific, where their average sea level, their average elevation will be below sea level and the entire country's gone. You will have climate change refugees, all right? The US military is keeping track of this because if you have refugees of entire countries that no longer exist, it destabilizes the world geopolitics. So, sorry, I just went on a rant there.
No, it's
you
fine.
Started it.
It's all fine. It's a classic Neil deGrasse Tyson rant.
So just to summarize that, change is always happening, but if it happens faster than you can accommodate, it could be devastating to your economy, to your culture, to what we have so carefully built as what we call civilization.
You're very well known as a great educator, and I wonder because there's this stereotype that science is just better for men, that it's men's domain to go with science, to actually go to university and learn physics, astrophysics and stuff. What do you say, and what would you say to young girls, women who are thinking to do it, but they're like not sure because they're not comfortable with the sociology position of looking at women in science?
Yeah, so there are two pieces of this. There are some people out there who want to declare that not all fields are suitable for all demographics, okay? And that camp is not thinking sociology, they're thinking temperament, they're thinking hormones, they're thinking genetics. Okay, so let's hold them aside for a moment. While I've never been female, I cannot speak directly to the female experience, but I have been dark-skinned my entire life, and with ambitions that wanted to take me to places where other dark-skinned people were rare to not existent. Not only that, it was taking me to places where the culture of society It's not only did I have a role model, no, but the culture has built in the forces that will guide you away from it. So there I am wanting to be in the physics club. Oh, don't you want to be an athlete? Don't you want to be on our basketball team? Don't you want to, we'll have rides for you to come back home and you don't have to worry about. And so it's as though becoming a scientist for me was the path of most resistance, not the path, in spite of my very deep and long established interest in the field. So what I'm saying is I can add up all the forces operating against me to be where I am today. And I survived them because I had basically an unlimited source of energy to combat it, emotionally, physically, intellectually. It's every time someone has low expectations or an opportunity goes to someone else and not me because they can't fathom that I can or should be considered the same way others are. Okay. We now look and see there are few Black people in the STEM fields. All right. All I can say is, if you're going to try to make theories, hypotheses for why people are underrepresented in the field, you cannot do that until you know that there is a pure and level playing field in access to opportunity for all people. And for me, the playing field was not level, okay? It was pitched against me, so it took extra energy, and I had that energy. But how about the people that didn't have as much energy as I had? They're off doing something else now when they could have been great physicists or some other science, okay? So now let's port that example to women. Okay, ask any woman. They put up with shit they've been for decades, okay? The moment, it's forever for sure, but especially since the 1970s, when women, at least in the United States, entered the workforce in huge numbers, okay? And they got to deal with asshole guys and, sorry, you can bleep that. So, and now we're going to say, oh, there aren't many women in the field. And so now we're going to say, oh, because they're not interested or because there's some genetic no, you haven't earned the position to even make such a comment because the pathways there are not equal. Okay. And so I'm not saying we should require equal outcome in every thing, but we should at least have equal opportunity to that outcome. And in my life, I didn't see it, and I have no doubt that that's certainly the case with women today. So I'd like to think in the decades to come, the playing fields get leveled. We all have an equal fighting chance to get to where we want to land, and then let society shake out however it does then.
Great answer.
I don't think we're there enough to give those kinds of arguments for it.
Yeah, it's still a process. It is. I hope it's happening in just a good direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'll add to that,
sure,
at the risk of being redundant, that if you really want to achieve something, it's deep in you, nobody else matters. Who cares what they think of you? Who cares, right? So my concern is when someone wants to do something and other people say, no, you can't do it. And they say, oh, really? Okay, let me go find some. Be stronger than that, right? Have more resolve than that. There's no one up there that looks like me. Okay, be the first person who looks like you so that others can point to you and say, oh, they look like me, all right? The pioneers in all fields, in all walks of life, struggle. It's part of the package of what it is to be a pioneer in something. So accept that. Rise to the challenge. Okay? Break down that barrier. Yeah, and it's hard. It'll be harder for you than the person right behind you. But if you love it and you want to do it, summon the energy wherever you can find it and make it happen. So
that's a really good answer. And I have one last question. You speak very often that you don't find meaning in career in science, but you create it. And Can you say how do you get to that point of understanding your view of things?
So let me correct what you said. So it's not that I said you can't find meaning in career. I said it's in response to the people who say, what is the meaning of life? Okay. And how do I find meaning in life? And I would say, if that's how you're approaching the question, it implies that meaning is hidden under a rock. And say, oh, there's meaning. Now I have meaning. Or look behind the tree. And I'm thinking, no, maybe meaning is not something you find exterior to yourself. Maybe meaning is something that you create within yourself. You can do this with having hobbies. You can do this with creating meaning for other people. Okay, and then you can live through the joys you give other people. And if you're not that altruistic, then give meaning to your life from your own career or your own trajectories. And so you create the meaning that is otherwise absent from your life because you have the power to do so. And what is that power? It's asking yourself, what do I like to do? What brings me happiness? What brings me sadness? You do more of one and less of the other. And then you look back and say, I've done good in this life, however you want to define that good. And so, and by the way, the people who, my response to religious people who say, well, there's the everlasting bliss in eternity when you die, I say, okay, that comes as part of your religious belief system in a free society. I don't have a problem with that. I can tell you that I'm less convinced of that account of what happens when you die. And because of that, within me, I have it as my number one mission, not to squander any moments of the time I am alive. The knowledge that I'm going to die gives particular focus and meaning to the time that I have left that I'm alive. So and by the way, I know what I want on my tombstone, okay? It's a quote from Horace Mann, an educator here in the United States from a century ago. He said, be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity.
It's a great quote. And I know that you did score a lot for humanity. And
that means I can die now. That's what you're
telling
me?
No, sir. No. We need more books like that because it's a really great book. And talking with you was just only a pleasure. Just a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks for your interest. And just regards to everyone in Poland, I'm delighted to learn that multiple books have been translated. And maybe one day, post-pandemic, I'd get to finally visit.
Come here. Yeah. It will be great.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.